Deck here with Queen Bee Creations. I have a cool technique that I want to be able to show you guys today. And I've prepped my piece already just to get a bit of a head start. But basically this happens to be a big drop leaf dining room table. It's got 2 extra leaves in it. It's got the Duncan Fife sides, but it's been base coated white. And really, for the look that I'm after, that's the base coat that I'm starting with. But you could start easily with virtually any color that you want. Now, for my project, I am using DIY paints. I've dropped a link below so you can easily pick up the paints from me if you'd like, or from your local distributor, whatever works best for you. This white that I've got down is White Swan, so it happens to be a bright white. I've already painted the base and the legs in this, and I've got them sealed so they're out of the way. This is just all about the top, which is great for large surfaces because it's a really fast, easy way to be able to get some interest and some look happening here. But it's awesome on buffets, small tables, I mean, whatever you'd like to do. I've even seen it done on countertops, so don't be limited. I have the chairs for this already painted out in white, and I've got a bright fabric that's going on the seats. So I'm looking to kind of pair and match the tabletop to that fabric. So to do that, I'm gonna be using some color. I am going to be applying more white. I'm using DIY Mermaid Tail, which is a lovely, rich turquoise color. I've got Mint Chip, which is a bit of a kind of a pale mint chippy kind of green tone, but I also have a darker green that I'm using, which is Fancy Farm Girl. And I also have a bit of gray, so we're not staying totally colored, we're toning it down a little bit as well, so that we get a little bit of that barnboard wood kind of look happening. And for that, I'm using a mid-tone gray, which is called letterpress gray. You could easily do this project with any paint of your choice, any colors of your choice, so it's got tons of flexibility. But it's all about the dry brushing. And the color, let me just pop these underneath, that I'm going to be using first. And you can see that I've got brushes. I prefer to use flat brushes for this. I'm using Paint Pixie. So again, I'll drop the link on there. We've got some on the website still in stock. But you could use chip brushes. So if you're not using as big a surface as this, then you could use chip brushes for this as well. It doesn't have to be a really, we're not looking for a smooth finish. This is all about the dry brushing. So we are going to be using small bits of paint at a time. We're going to be dipping the paintbrush in and then offloading much of the paint. You can do this onto a cloth. I tend to do it onto the plate and then pick up that paint afterward, but it is just all about doing the dry brushing. We want very, very little paint on the brush, and we're just going to be creating strokes in our work. So we want lots of nice long strokes and just kind of going back and forth, moving along the entire tabletop. When I need some more, I'll go off to this side where I've got it offloaded. And pulling it down through. You're going to get some spots where it's a little bit heavier, where it bunches up a little bit, perfectly fine. And ultimately, that's going to create some interest in the piece and is going to work. Okay, so this is our first coat of our dark turquoise color. You can see, doesn't look nice. Looks fairly splotchy. It's not going to look better as we add colors on. But I am laying some of the darker colors first. I'm going to do my farmhouse green next. And I just want you to know, it doesn't take a lot of paint. We're laying this down. You can see how very little that I'm doing. So you want to have a decent base coat down before you start this and the dry brushing. But the layers aren't going to take a lot of paint as you add them in. And we're not looking for complete coverage. We want some of this blotchiness to happen. And we want to work some of the other colors out around that, so that when we do sand down, we're going to be able to sand down through the different layers and get different looks and textures. And the colors will just kind of meld together by then. If that makes sense, you'll see what I mean. So we're going to do exactly the same process. And we're just going to start by laying in some of the rest of our colors. So in this case, we're going to be adding in some of this darker green color, right? In our farmhouse green, and we're just going to be adding that in between. Okay, third color. So you can see this is kind of filling in. Still looks awful. The only thing that I am making an effort to do is try and keep most of my strokes moving in the same kind of direction, so that I have everything, rather than being patches, looking like it's in a plank perspective. And we're going to use that when we get to the sanding part as well. This time I want to add in a little bit of a gray. So I want to tone things down just a little bit, and I'm using a mid-tone gray. This one is letterpress gray. On my next layer, I may go a slightly lighter gray in that next coating. But for now, because this is still down in my lower layers, I'm using a slightly darker gray, and again, kind of taking it into some of the longer strokes. We're going to have some darker patches, lighter patches. That's perfect. That's what we're looking for. And our last color, mint chip. Okay, so again, same process, no big secret here. We're just adding in that color wherever we kind of feel it. Doesn't look nice yet, does it? All right, now we've got all of our color laid down. We are going to add white. So in essence, what we're going to be doing is a slightly heavier coat of the white over top of all of this, and then do exactly the same thing again that I just did. Meaning, then I'm going to do my dry brush and my turquoise, my dark green, my gray, my mint chip, and then a really light coating of the white. So I'm going to carry on and do all of those layers. We're going to start with the white, and then I'm going to come back at you at that point, and we'll talk a little bit about the sanding. All right, we are back here with our table, and I'm just looking to see if you guys, oh, without me there, you can see. Okay, so you can see that I've finished with a white coat over top of the table. And really at this stage, what we're looking for is kind of a bit of an even coverage. We've got a lot of our layers. So we've got our base coat of white, we have our 4 different colors just dry brushed on, a coat of white done in just this patchy dry brush finish, and then those 4 dry brush colors again, and then finishing with this white dry brush. All moving the length of the table. It's now time for the fun reveal part, but it's also the messy part. So we are going to sand. I've got my mask because it's going to be a lot of sanding. I've got my little mouse sander, and I'm going to flip you over to music because this is going to be loud and noisy. But as much as I'm going to kind of move in the direction of the table, I'm also going to stop a little bit longer in some spots to go further down into the layers. So I'm not looking to just do it totally even. I want to be able to reveal different layers, different colors, have them merge a little bit in there. Here we are at the final step. We have put all of our paint on, our dry brushing. This has been lightly sanded smooth. So I had used a 120 grit to be able to reveal all the layers, but I finished with a 400 just to be able to get it to be nice and silky smooth on top. I like how that feels. We are now going to apply our top coat. And for this, because it's a dining room table, I don't recommend using wax. Usually I'll use wax on almost anything. I love it. I love the way it feels. But for this, it's going to take a lot of wear. So I am going to be applying a polyacrylic top coat in flat. I don't want it to be bright and shiny. I still want to have a little bit of that chalk paint, that clay paint finish to it. So it is going to be in a matte. And I am on this tabletop, because it's a dining room table, going to apply 4 coats, sanding lightly in between each coat. And I prefer, rather than using a brush, I prefer using a damp sponge. So this is wet, been squeezed, really, really dry, and I've applied my top coat into just this little plastic container so that I can dip it in more easily. And it's just as simple as wiping on, revealing some of those colors, and getting a nice smooth finish on this. And you can see how those DIY paint colors just pop as you're doing this. So remember the edges, and we just carry on through the whole table and the extra leaves that are sitting elsewhere in the studio. So apply your top coat, sand lightly in between layers, and 3 to 4 coats if it's going to be a dining room table. I'm looking forward to getting this staged for you.